This tape will be primarily about this code section. It is a criminal code section. It's to be respected and has been disrespected by countless people working for various people. One has just announced that they don't do the 18 USC 4 under the Posse Comitatus Act, which has nothing to do with 18 USC 4. The Posse Comitatus Act very clearly makes it that you cannot use the federal government and the federal military to enforce domestic policies. Enforce them. That's active enforcing. That does not mean that they're not allowed to report a crime, and that's all 18 USC 4 demands that they do. So let's go back. Posse Comitatus, you can't send out the Air Force or the Army to catch people. Are you telling me that they can't turn in a criminal? No. And any officer who attempts to use Posse Comitatus as to explain his actions is so far off base, it's incredible. But let's go back to the law that this is about. 18 U.S. Code, Section 4, misprision of a felony. It's actually more reporting a felony. Whoever having knowledge of the actual commission of a felony cognizable by a court of the United States conceals and does not as soon as possible make known to some judge, or other person in civil or military authority under the United States shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 3 years or both. I am the one who is applying 18 U.S. Code 4. I have 22 felonies. I think they have increased because I believe it's a felony when you intentionally violate this section and refuse to report a felony that you have had reported to you in an appropriate position. Who is that? Well, first, Judge Annette Turik. She'd be my 23rd that I'd like for them to investigate whether or not that's a felony, what she did. She refused to take it. She said it had nothing to do with the case before her, which was totally false. The man that she chose that day to be her bailiff had assaulted me feloniously when I was trying to assert my legal rights to the clerk of court. The clerk of court had indeed brought that man in, and he had approved what the man did because he did not tell anybody that what was done was a sneak attack from behind without a word being said, with nobody anywhere near me, and he beat me badly, something that would have probably crippled most old men. Yes, I'm an old man, 68 and a half. He got away with it. They didn't allow me to make a first phone call that was an emergency for 6+ hours, I believe. I didn't have a watch, it's hard to tell. And the reason was it was an emergency and that I had accused the arresting man of having actually done the crime, and I had done nothing other than irritate the clerk of court, whose clerks had been told to only send over the plaintiff's motions and not to send my motions to the judge. They don't have that authority. They're administrative, they are not judicial. The judge has to make that decision, and the judge has to do it openly. Instead, I think she was trying to do it using the clerk to blame. She cannot do that, but she did. So I reported to that judge, Judge Annette Turik. She's a district court judge here in Wayne County. She refused it repeatedly and came close to finding me in contempt of court for continuing to attempt to save the person who was the one under threat and still remains under threat many, many days. May 5th, that was the date of the appearance before the judge, still under threat. Then we have the civil authority, the FBI. I could not use law enforcement here in the area because they are guilty of multiple felonies. They're on the list. The Goldsboro Police Department used a crowbar. No, they allowed a man to use a crowbar to break into my home that I'd been in for 16 years with a woman who was very sick of stage 4 cancer. And he broke into the home, and the Goldsboro police officer, Harrison, declared him now the possessor of the home because he used the crowbar effectively. That's not how it works in America, Goldsboro Police Department. But Goldsboro Police Department has obstructed me from reporting officers in the past, with 5 officers, all of whom have a lot of explaining to do if the FBI ever cares to do anything, and the time is running out. Probably that was August in 2015, and the government has elected not to do anything. Obama and Trump, they are scofflaws if they don't do things when the police act like thugs. And that's what they're doing. 5 of them blocking me from entering the police station and making it clear, and then the police chief covering it up and making it clear he was not going to take any report of a bad conduct by an officer, maybe criminal conduct at this point, somewhere, somehow. Then we go on to the FBI. The FBI has opened a case. It's now 40 days and 40 nights and a bit more than that. Best I can tell, they don't even know where she lives. They don't care to know, but they do have Henny Carlisle victim, and they're waiting till she dies so that they can prove that she died from cancer. Of course she died from cancer. The issue is, did her doctor have a base motive to keep her from having a second successful cancer treatment? Namely, her first one got her out of liver failure. She went from dark yellow to mild, very minimal yellow by the second day. He failed to give her the third day because he doesn't work Saturdays. Well, that doctor should not have been allowed to cut her off from chemo, but they let in the crowbar man, and the crowbar man wants her dead. And he agrees. Mom doesn't get it. Yeah, it's her son. Her son, who had abused her through the decade and a half that I knew them. In order to visit them, she has to freeze to death because they demand that their AC be kept below what an elderly person can stand. She's supposed to cover herself in blankets. And she does, because she loves her son. Unfortunately, he does not love her, and I think the same is true. His brother is not actively involved, but it appears his brother knows exactly what they're doing. They want the money. Last time she got recovered. This time she's not going to get the treatment because it worked. Oh yeah, they left town before she was even allowed the treatment and wasn't going to see the doctor for 10 days. I forced her appointment, and within the day, and then within the next day she got the chemo. Only 2 days because the doctor doesn't work Saturdays. So the FBI has an open file. They have shown that they are derelict in their duties. There are probably a multitude of felonies that could be considered against these 3 agents, particularly the lead agent. And if there is a senior agent on the case, that senior agent is responsible for what the lead agent does. I believe there is one of each. Then I had no choice. I went to a military authority. Didn't work. The military authority here at Seymour Johnson ducked a lawyer. I decided, after visiting the front gate position, it was clear that I wasn't going to get into there. I could not claim to be a lawyer, so I got a lawyer, Martha Beach. She very properly, repeatedly called to try to get a chance to explain the full details, but they knew it was about 18 USC 4. I'm almost certain they had to have known, because I had already told the gate, and the gate passes it up the line. They didn't do it, so I went to, after 2 weeks of failures between Martha and myself, I went to the next one I knew about, which was, they are a combat command 4th Fighter Wing. So their superior, one of their superiors was, unfortunately, I had to go to the Air Combat Command, General James Holmes. Well, General Mike Holmes has been protected from hearing a thing. He probably knows about it, but he ain't going to admit it. You don't have the right to refuse it. All you do is accept it, and if you're military, you pass it back to the most appropriate civil authority you can find. And in this case, all the things have to do with violation of civil rights. The Civil Rights Division of the Department of Justice in Washington, and you do it with making it clear that there's a sense of urgency as a woman's being killed. Instead, General Holmes's people, over 8 days, now 9 days, have done nothing other than they eventually called the base commander at Seymour Johnson and told him, "You fix it." Well, he tried to fix it by telling me I could not continue claiming that they failed to do their job. They did fail to do their job. I cannot undo that. And he now has refused to further do his job until I retract my testimony and my claims. Sorry, sir, that is illegal. I have to tell the truth. And what you have asked is absolutely wrong. You all need a course in just simple law. You don't tell a witness to change their testimony. So at this point, the lady will die because the military, General Holmes and Colonel Donn Yates, have both refused in one way or another through their men. And in this case, Colonel Donn Yates called me on Family Time yesterday trying to tell me how it was going to be done. No, sir. You either do your job or you stand up for prosecution potentially of not doing your job, particularly when it's done knowingly. And when you attempt to change a witness's testimony for you to do your job, that is obscene in America. I hope there's like 5 felonies that you have committed by doing that. So that's the end of that. Oh yeah, President Trump has it, but he doesn't know nothing. Yeah, that's me in the background. I'm dressed to go and face my evil, failed civil and military authorities. America, we need to put an end to scofflaws that are elite, scofflaws that are in authority. President Trump is protected from this. He should not be. He needs to have a conduit that gets him things that have to be acted on promptly. He has no such conduit. And that's easily fixed. And that's up to Trump and his advisors, but maybe they'd rather him not have that conduit, and they don't want to do things that are emergencies. America, this lady has been killed on, she may not be dead yet, but they're not going to save her. They're going to find 100 different reasons why they're just going to sit on it, just like the FBI has sat now for 40 days and 40 nights. The only thing they did is when I came a third time after 27 days, and they were coming to surprise me at a place I was no longer at for 5 hours. I went and surprised them as they were getting into their cars. The only thing they did, they told me nothing of any consequence other than that she was a victim. They did have an open file, and they were working on the hostage situation 27 days later. But because I visited 3 times and because I phone called maybe 10 times, they couldn't get to work on it. And they don't have enough men. And they didn't call any in. I want these men before the dock, having to answer for what they've done. 3 FBI guys, whether or not they're agents, it's hard to tell. They sure haven't acted like it. This is a infamy for America. Wayne County is corrupt. Their judges are corrupt. And yet, or some of them are, and some of their police, some of their county mounties, multiple felonies for the county mounties, multiple felonies for Goldsboro police, potentially. And what do we have? An FBI protecting us? No, they're sitting on things. They got to explain that. The guy wants to kill his patient, and no one cares. No one cares. The hospital's part of it. And I haven't even gone into all the things that show the man is unquestionably attempting to kill her. Henny Carlisle, may she rest in peace if she doesn't get saved. This is fight the corrupt, fight all corrupt. William Samuel McAlewy II, angry as could be and crying as can be.